Welcome back. Built by Bailey's YouTube channel. I've got a cool project that I'm about to start, and it's a live edge project, as you can see from this gorgeous piece of wood right here. And it's a fairly simple project. I'm actually going to be building 2 shelves out of this really gorgeous piece of wood that are going to be going into a home build that we're doing called The Nook. It's a shipping container build, and having a lot of fun with that project. If you guys haven't checked out that playlist, go ahead and look up here, click that playlist called The Nook, and you can see all of the stuff that we're doing on the build from start to finish. We are within the finish line on this one, and we're doing all the fun woodworking and finish on this project right now. So I'm actually going to be starting the prep for this piece of live edge, and what I'm going to be doing is making 2 long, about 5-foot shelves. They're going to be going in the kitchen of the Nook, and I'm going to start with prepping this piece of wood. I'm going to show you guys the entire process of how I'm going to prepare this piece of raw live edge wood and turn it into 2 really cool shelves. Very excited. Love working with live edge. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and it's gonna be really cool when it's all done. If you stay around to the end of this video, you'll get to see it actually installed in the Nook itself, and you can see how it looks and folds into the kitchen. So I'm excited to get this going so we can get it up there and get it in. So without further ado, let us begin.
Okay, so first things first, we have to cut our shelves to length. Now, keeping in mind, we're not working with perfectly square material here. This is live edge, and this is a really rough piece of lumber so far. It literally has just been cut from a tree from the sawmill, and we picked it up. So I am going to measure from the longest point of both sides of this piece of wood, and I'm going to go ahead and cut, which I have approximated to be 5-foot long shelves. Once I measure that, I square it up as best I can, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut it with my skill saw, as you can see here, to get my approximately, as I say, 5-foot pieces. We're going to go ahead and square those up a bit later to make sure both ends are squared up, as they'll be going against a square piece of material up at the Nook itself. Okay, so as you see here, I've got that cut in half, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut my second piece, again, going from the longest edge of this shelf, and then I'm going to come on back, and I'm going to go ahead and cut the other side. All right, once I had both ends squared up, it was time to cut the shelves to depth, and that's going to be an 11-inch depth from the deepest part of the shelf to make sure that they fit nicely and are usable above our base cabinets. The fun part about this was that I did not have my track saw with me. It was actually up at the project being used by my crew. So I did the poor man's version, as you've seen me do in other videos, using a 6-foot or an 8-foot level, lining up both edges as we would do to scribe a piece of material, but this is going to be squared up. Then I go ahead and lock down that level with my bar clamps, and then fingers crossed, using my skill saw, I can stay nice and tight to that edge and cut it all the way down nice and straight. Again, hoping that everything works out. All right, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Next step, go ahead and sand these down using, as you saw there, starting with 150 grit sandpaper and a random orbital sander. I run through all the material, all edges, and then I come back with a 220 and do the whole thing all over again to start babying this thing up, meaning it's going to be baby butt smooth on all the edges to get it ready for our first coat of polyurethane. Again, I'm not staining these things. I want to bring out the natural color of the wood. So I'm just going to go ahead and use a semi-gloss polyurethane on these shelves to make sure that we keep the natural effect.
Hi, wanted to interrupt this video real quick to do a shameless plug of all of the merch. It really helps out the channel, and you can find all of that at builtbybaileys.com and go to products, and you can get anything from sweatshirts to hats. We even have phone cases, all kinds of cool stuff there. It helps out the channel. Would really appreciate you guys go check that out. builtbybaileys.com, go to the products page, search anything to your heart's content. It helps keep this channel going. All right, so enough of the shameless plugs. Let's get back to making some shelves.
And now it's 320's turn. Sand that wood.
Okay, hopefully you guys can see this. I'm going to pull this around just a smidge. So, obviously we're working with live edge material. The look is a raw, natural type of architectural design, whatever you want to call it, right? So, we want to keep as much of this live edge live as possible without removing too much of this, but at the same time, it's got to be functional. We don't want too many rough edges. It's, like I said, there's going to be a shelf. There's going to be hands all over this, so we don't want people, you know, getting their hands stuck on this, splinters. I don't want any of this material to peel off. So there is some removal. As you've seen on the other shelf that I've done, I've sanded it down, but trying to keep as much of that live edge look as possible. I don't want to get rid of it. I mean, I could sand this whole thing off if I wanted to, but what's the point, right? We want those natural colors and the feel of this material to shine through. We do have to remove some of the loose stuff, okay? So what I recommend doing is just taking a very nice sharp chisel, just carpenter's chisel, and we're going to remove anything that's going to be rough, bumpy, or it's going to flake off. And some of this is actually ready to peel. It's bark, and we want to get rid of some of that, but I don't want to take off the entire structural feel of this. So you can see as I'm tapping it, some of it's falling off even, which is fine, right? I'm going to sand some of this too, but I don't want to remove all of this and have no look left. So as you can see here, I'm just going to take the surface bark off of here. I'm just going to chisel it down. Be really careful not to go too deep on here, okay? I just want to remove the flaky stuff. The rest I'm going to sand because I can actually, when I'm running the orbital sander on it, I can actually kind of force some of that material back into the wood. And that's what I want. I want to keep it there, but want to make sure it's functional. Okay, so get yourself a couple nice carpenter's chisels, make sure they're sharp, and just go real shallow, just tapping that in. I don't want to push too deep. I don't want to angle it too much into the wood itself, into the bark. I want to come nice and shallow and just remove the stuff that's not going to stay on. Okay, so just a little extra there on when you're working with this live edge material. That's kind of what we're dealing with. This stuff, no, it's not even edible.
Okay, polyurethane time. As I said, I'm using a clear semi-gloss, as you can see here from Varathane. I'm going to go ahead and wipe all the dust debris off of that live edge, clean it up nice and smooth, and then I'm going to go ahead and start pouring that polyurethane right in the middle of the product. And I'm going to go ahead and use a foam roller to spread out all of my polyurethane to make it the most efficient coating as possible. Once I get it all down, I'm going to come back with a cheesecloth or a good wiping cloth, as you can see here. I'm going to go ahead and pull off that excess polyurethane to make sure I get rid of all the bubbles, and it's nice and easy clean.
All right, so we're all done, right? All done. Polyurethane's on, we're ready to go. Nope. We got a lot more work to do, actually. This is the part in the project with woodworking where I think a lot of, especially DIYers, will get confused and wonder, how many coats, what do I do? Do I sand in between, whatever? We're going to go through all that. So once you get your first coat on, and you want to allow at least 12 hours to dry with these products, if you can go a whole day, it's even better. The longer you go out between coats, especially the first to second coat, the better off you are as far as prepping for the next couple of coats here. This is the biggest part of the work. So once you get that first coat of polyurethane on, you're going to rub your hand on here, and it's going to feel rough again. It's not going to smell like a baby's butt anymore. It's going to feel rough, and you're going to wonder, well, I just sanded all the Dallas work for sanding, got it all prepped, and then I went ahead and put my polyurethane on, and now it's rough and like I got to start all over again. In theory, you almost have to, but here is the trick with this. The reason why you have a rough finish is because once you've sanded all this out, as we did, the grain of this wood has opened up, and then when it gets that polyurethane in it, that grain actually swells. And when it swells, it's going to create that rougher surface again. We need to kind of just settle that grain back down until it's okay. It's okay, buddy. We're gonna cover you up and make you nice and pretty, but we got to calm it down. It's almost like inflammation in the body. So what I do from here is I'll come back after my first coat and I will sand down with a 320 grit, but I'm not going to use my oscillating sander anymore. No random orbital sander. I'm going to go by hand, okay? And you can use the same sandpaper you're doing with your random orbital, or you can go get some nice big square pieces. It doesn't really matter. I have this with me and it's a little bit easier to hold on to. It's going to be a light sanding. What I'm going to do is I'm going to knock down some of the kind of the wood nubbies, and I'm going to try and just get this grain to calm down a little bit and get it smoother again. You're going to see the dust come up. It's going to almost look like you're pulling the polyurethane out, and it looks like there was a complete waste of work, but it's not. So just stay patient, because after we hit this with 320 and we add our second coat, we're going to come back with concurrent and the next few coats, we're going to come back with even higher grits of sandpaper, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to sand this down, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little clean with some mineral spirits, and then we're going to do another coat. And we're going to let that dry, probably another 12 hours, and then we're going to come back with some higher grain, probably a 600, and we're going to work our way through this process until we're about 1,000 grain on the sandpaper, and we've had at least 3 coats done on this thing. It'll look really rad when we're done. All right, let's get started. Okay, as you see, as I'm kind of going along, I'm actually running my hand behind the sanding that I'm doing. I want to feel, one, that we're getting back to a smooth kind of surface, and we're calming down that grain again. And 2, I'm kind of wiping away the kind of residual polyurethane as it comes in. Now that just kind of helps it before I get the mineral spirits and clean it up, but I want to make sure I'm smooth again. I want to make sure I'm getting some of that dust up as we go.
So I use a odorless mineral spirit to wipe off the residual dust from the polyurethane after sanding. And once that's nice and clean, I'm going to go ahead and put another coat of polyurethane on, and then I'm going to come back with a higher grit sandpaper, as I said before. And once that final coat of polyurethane is dry, I come back with one more round of sanding, this time with 1,000 grit sandpaper, just to get it nice and baby butt smooth again. And then I'm going to come back with mineral spirits one more time and wipe off all that residual dust, get them cleaned up, wrapped up, and it's off to the Nook we go for the install. Chwing! Just like that, we get teleported to the Nook, which is a 3-container build that we're doing. This is where the live edge shelves are going in. So this is how I do the install for these floating shelves. I've already installed my 6-inch by 1/2 inch steel dowels. Each dowel can hold 75 pounds by itself, okay? Those are anchored into framing members behind my shiplap backsplash here on the wall. And what I do is I lay the shelf exactly where I want it. Then I put 2 pieces of tape underneath the shelf, right on top of where the dowels are, and I mark the center of each dowel with a pencil. I can then take that and transfer it with a speed square to the back of the live edge shelf, which you'll see here in a second, and that gives me my center point to go ahead and drill my holes for each one of these dowels, so I can slide it back onto the wall, and presto, you have magic live edge floating shelves.
All right, so once I have my marks on my blue tape, then I can take, in this case, I can take a normal speed square or a bigger square. I can line it up with my mark, and then I can mark here, and there's my center, okay? And from there, I'm going to measure to the middle of this, from this mark, I'm going to measure to the middle of this shelf, and that's where I'm going to drill my hole. The trick with this, if I'm using a drill press, is to get it as straight as possible so I'm not fighting the install. So that's going to be key, is drilling slow and keeping that drill as square as possible throughout the whole thing, okay? I'm going to go mark my 6 1/4 inch depth on my drill, on my bit. I'm actually going to put a piece of blue tape on there so I know where my final depth should be on my drill bit, and that way when I get to that depth I can stop and back it out. So that's the next step, is to put those holes in, and then we can slide them in for install. All right, so there you go. Tape is on at 6 1/4. Okay, so you can see behind me, one is almost up before I install the second shelf. Just a little advertisement interruption. If you guys want to help support this build, the Nook, go to builtbybaileys.com, go to our products page, and look this up. This is the Nook t-shirt, the official t-shirt. This helps us actually not only with the Nook build, but to keep this channel going. Appreciate all the support from everyone, all the subscribers. You guys have been wonderful. If you haven't subscribed, think about subscribing. We're doing more of these. We're doing more of all kinds of stuff for Built by Bailey's, and the videos keep coming out. The Nook t-shirt, products page, builtbybaileys.com. Okay, check it out. All right, let's put the other shelf up and see how it looks. Like a glove. Okay, there we go. 2 live edge shelves to frame out our nice black shiplap backsplash. Everything is coming together. We're going to finish this touch up and caulking for the paint, take the tape down. We got a few punch list items and then we are just about done. I also have another video on building those large rail doors, which I'm getting ready to install here in the Nook. So make sure you guys keep an eye out for that video as well. And as always, guys, until next time, keep building.